Everything's unofficial at this stage, but right now, it's all about this man, Kyle Cheney.
Kyle Cheney has done such a great job, and the guys at Can-Am got to be stoked. As I was saying earlier,
and here he is. This is Kyle Cheney. He takes the checkered flag. He takes the win here at the 2023 Progressive Insurance King of the Hammers.
Kyle Cheney may just have set history here in Johnson
This year's
Valley,
been different. You know, we've won the UTV race the last 4 years, and yeah, I still want to win it, but you know, our focus this year was 4,400.
I've said this forever in the UTV industry. The UTV industry started because they took quads and they made them bigger. But what they needed to do was they needed to take a buggy, they needed to make it smaller. And with the Mavar, they finally did that. It's not a big quad anymore, it's a small car.
CT Race Worx went to the drawing board and designed a full chassis car to incorporate the Can-Am Maverick R components.
The chassis needs to encapsulate driver and passenger and be surrounded by 120 wall tubing. Can't do that in a stock car. If you want to cut out all the tubes, it's a huge pain in the ass. We don't want to do that. We just build from scratch, make a complete package. Second part of that, Mavar on 37s. We have a tall knuckle that will support a 37-inch tall tire with roughly 1.5 inches above the tire, which means that car can run 110, 115 miles an hour. The tire expand and grow, and that tire not rub the ball joint in the upper portion of this spindle. There's a lot of ways to skin this cat, and we did it in a way to where we did not want to annihilate suspension geometry. We didn't want to take the shortcut, and we wanted to keep the Maverick R a Maverick R, and that thing is a monster chunk of aluminum. It is a huge one-piece tall knuckle upright spindle, knuckle, whatever you want to call it, for a Maverick R. From a geometry standpoint, we lost a degree, and so we gained a degree of change due to travel, and we were able, through kind of other designs, we were able to keep all that under control, and there's no negative effect. You drive a tall knuckle car, again, Kyle's going to be running a tall knuckle car in the 4900 class on 35s.
Yeah, the car was actually probably 50% better than I thought it was going to be. I figured we were going to have a huge learning curve trying to figure out suspension and geometry and you know, just how to drive the car on the bigger tires, and you know, getting the transmission and everything just to click. You know, with something that was built pretty much from scratch and having it work the first time is pretty amazing. This guy at the CT definitely nailed it.
If he's willing to do that in 4900 class, when he could reasonably just run a standard, you know, upright, you know, that's saying that there are no suspension downfalls of tall knuckle with the upper A-arm that we have. It's a setup that works. It's a setup that we have tested.
Just the amount of stuff that we've learned in the last year is crazy. To think that we were able to win with the Maverick R last year is, you know, is pretty awesome. You know, being a new platform for Can-Am.
We knew that not only did we have to build something that could support the clearance or have more clearance to support the car getting through the rocks, but we had to build things way stronger than we ever had, because the car is 500 pounds heavier than an X3. So it was battling a width issue, it was battling a weight issue, it was battling kind of how the DCT inputs power, puts it down to the wheels, and how you have to drive that car. It's totally different than the X3. It's a totally different setup.
The car was so good to begin with, it gave me time to critique the little things. You know, instead of having to go back and work and change, you know, big things, I was able to critique, you know, little minute things that, you know, are possibly game changers in winning this race.
That well, just to keep it kind of
yeah, because it'll kind of naturally want to stay like down here.
Yeah, so the last couple years in Hammers, I've raced this in I've raced the desert race with my good buddy Bill Zemak, and we race an unlimited car, Class 1 unlimited car. It's kind of a 6200 buggy, an all-wheel drive V8, Reese Mill and Jackal. And that thing's wild. So I have a lot of desert experience, and I've raced in the desert actually started in an OG Maverick in 2013 and have had a long racing career in the desert. So coming out here this year, not running the desert race, running the rock race, racing with Nathan Parker. The car that Nate and I are gonna race is, it's chassis number 5, and chassis number 5 was a stock version of the 4400 cars. And what I mean by a stock version of the 4400 car is that I didn't move suspension like shock mounting points as drastically as I did with the 4400 cars because 35-inch tall tire, I have a lot more room to move and play with things on a 37 to get full range of suspension travel and things like that. So Nate's car is going to be more of what people are going to see in, say, the modern era of UTV racing world. Is a single rear shock versus Kyle's car with external bypass shocks on the back of it. So it still allows you to run Pro Mod, which Pro Mod is by far the most popular race class in Ultra 4. So we maintained a lot more plastic on the car because it is a stock front spindle. It's not a tall knuckle setup, which means that we run our production suspension on it, no fancy proprietary parts. That means that with not having crazy proprietary parts, it means that chassis can be a bolt-on car. You could technically take the chassis and just put all stock A-arms, trailing arms, radius rods on it, and everything work. It's not anything crazy, kind of like the 4400 cars.
These ones, he came in with a game plan versus last year where it was kind of last minute and we came in blind. Nate did really good last year, and seeing that car, parked out in front of the Can-Am booth was a big step for me. Seeing one of these actually up on podium would be that next level, and that's where I'm hoping it'll be.
We spent hours and hours thinking about everything as much as we could, trying in the computer, all that kind of stuff, and then to finally see it come to life and be on the lake bed is pretty awesome.
About 8 of us in the company designed these chassis. We all sat in the conference room for weeks on end, just making sure that everything would be perfect.
Seat warm while we brought in our winners, but I'm here in the...
It's unbelievable. I mean, again, this is a project that started a year ago, right after Hammers, and we have a remarkable amount of time. My engineer Ben has got God knows how many hours in the computer. I mean, we've gone through this chassis, suspension, everything. God, more than anybody, probably as much as the Can-Am guys have at some point. It's incredible. I mean, you can't really ask for more. You come out here with a brand new chassis, brand new car, and you do something just way off the wall that nobody's ever done before. Build essentially a chassis from scratch that we can make as a production. It's still a one-off, but anybody can buy one. And for it to do as well as it did, and ecstatic, huge.
The Mavar just makes up for it in the desert. I wouldn't say it's bad in the rocks. It's just my driving was a little won't quite fit for it, but just kind of had to adapt to it and figure it out as we go.
I think to develop the program, the Miller brothers came over to CT at the end of last year. Actually, sorry, it was the beginning of last year. It was Hammers of last year, and they started running a lot of our suspension parts in the Mavar. And then when we got into the 4400 conversation, being that they had ran 4400 as well and did well, it was just natural to bring the Miller brothers in. It was all a group effort. It was a lot of input from everybody to make the best raceable product that we possibly could. So yeah, crazy excited to have the Miller brothers in the 4400 program as well. The thought of making the UTV run against the big cars is still kind of mind-blowing, but being that Kyle made it first across the line last year, it really ignited a fire that, hey, we can do this.
What we all talk about like a couple of years ago and every year, like if you could build the perfect 4400, I feel like this is pretty close to it. Something small, fairly light, strong, fast. I think this is it.
I think that the 4400 guys they're gonna see that, we built a car from scratch as well. We're not a modified UTV. We're not the golf cart anymore. We're a big car, 37s, bypass shocks. We're a complete kind of drivetrain. Yeah, we're smaller. Yes, we're still a UTV. But we made a tremendous effort this year, especially after last year's finish, to have not only a safer car, again, a longevity car, but all of this runs into chassis rigidity design, things that will allow them to, hopefully beat up these cars a little bit more and have them, make it through the extent of the race.
I knew once I got in that car, we were going to have a good shot this year at winning 4400. We took a knife to a gunfight last year for sure. We've got what it takes this year. I'm not worried about it. We've got a car that can compete with the top guy. Whoever's the fastest here, we're going to be able to compete with them.
If we got a car on the box on 4400 and that car held its position on the box because of outside influences, if we kept a car on the box of 4400, I mean, it would be insane. I mean, it would, it'd probably be an emotional thing. It'd be wild. podiums in the 4400 race, or if Hunter podiums, or if Cody does, I think it's going to have a lot of 4400 guys looking at building a UTV to race against big cars, in short. We put so much into this from a design standpoint, from time, money, manpower, the hours, and it's not just me, it's all my guys at the shop. It's everybody had a hand in this. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just one person. This is what I've done for a living for the last 18 years. I build off-road cars, whether it be buggies back in the day, UTVs now. You try to take on what 5 years ago we thought was the unthinkable. Like we were in an X3, and X3 was a capable car, but it was still, all of the puzzle pieces had to kind of fall in line. Well, today it wasn't a puzzle pieces had to fall in line. Like, that was earned. Kyle drove that car. It wasn't because one thing or another, that was earned. And Kyle was hungry for this, we were hungry for this. And it's pushed us to be better, and we've got things to learn and things that we're going to improve on, like always. But it's an unbelievable feeling. It's awesome.